Hi, SEC Unfiltered family. I'm done. I'm not going to live my life like this for the next 8 to 10 weeks. I'm not going to be on here every single day talking about a rumor that may or may not come true regarding the status of Lane Kiffin down at Ole Miss. We're not even through week 4 of the college football season. October has yet to arrive. We still don't know who are the legit contenders and pretenders in the SEC. Yet whenever I'm asked about the Rebels, it has nothing to do with the program that currently has not allowed a touchdown, has an X factor on the ground in Henry Parrish Jr., and arguably the top quarterback that should be a favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Nope, nothing about the program. It has everything to do with Lane Kiffin departing in the middle of the night to head on down to Gainesville for a job that hasn't even opened yet. I'm done with the narrative. I'm not going to be one of those clickbait people that draws in views. So let's get the record straight. Lane Kiffin is not going to be the next head coach down at Florida, and I cannot wait to see Freezing Cold Takes clip this when I am wrong, but I know I'm not going to be because logic and emotions both play a role in this factor. So what's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the subscribe button down below because this is your news source for all things SEC. Make sure that you follow us on the social channels at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Make sure you download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Make sure that you download the app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. But Hemingway is going to be rocking on Saturday when Georgia Southern comes to town. So do yourself a favor, go get yourself tickets, $20 off when you use the Game Time app. Logic and emotions both play a role in this. Let's talk about the logic part. Ole Miss currently is a favorite to go to the college football playoff. No, for my money, they are a favorite to go to the SEC championship. I have them going 11-1. I have the one loss coming to LSU, and based off of how that defense looked, I'm not sure that they're going to lose the game. This offense is humming on all 4 cylinders. You have a run game that's extremely potent. You have a passing attack where multiple players can be the number 1 on any given Saturday. The offensive line and pass pro still has a weak point, but it can get better. The run blocking has been phenomenal. This is one of the best teams on third down. And on top of all of that, you have a quarterback that is literally leading college football in almost every metric. Set an NCAA record in week 1, something that Joe Burrow, a Heisman Trophy winner, did. On top of that, you set a school record last week before you threw an interception. You also have a quarterback that had one of the highest completion percentages in any college football game. This is an offense that may have not played quality competition, is going to be in the playoff. So if you're going to be in the playoff, let's talk about that schedule. First game is going to be on Friday, December 20th. The next round is going to be on December 21st. After that, you have a game on December 31st or on Wednesday, January 1st. So if you're Florida and you fire Billy Napier, your next move is to get your head coach in the building so he can start recruiting, so he can start working the transfer portal in his favor. Because recruiting, that opens up on December 4th, if I'm not mistaken. That's when early signing period is. So you need a coach in the building by December 4th. And on top of that, you have the transfer portal window opening on December 9th, and it closes on January 7th. So Lane Kiffin takes his team to the college football playoff. Maybe they're a 5 seed, maybe they're a 7 seed, maybe they're a 1 seed, and they get the first round bye and they don't play till December 31st. The dates are not going to change because Lane Kiffin is leaving, say, January 9th. That doesn't happen. The early signing period is over. You have to be recruiting nonstop to land premier players down in the swamp because if you don't, congratulations, you're going to have a bunch of transfers or you're going to have a bunch of players that maybe don't fit your system. That's what you're given when you walk into the building and sign the contract to be the next fear factor in the swamp. That's not going to happen. Sorry, it won't. You also have to realize that with this team, it's the first time that they're going to the college football playoff. I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people that says Ole Miss is a better job than Florida. I don't think it is. Truly, I don't. I think that when you look at what Florida has, the resources, the athletic complex, the facilities, and the boosters that are willing to funnel money into the program so they really won't back down, Ole Miss is inferior compared to Florida. But being inferior doesn't mean that you're not a good job. And more importantly, Lane Kiffin is not going to leave in the middle of the night when there's history ahead for the Rebels. First time going to the college football playoff, arguably will be their best regular season finish in program history. On top of that, they'll have the personnel that maybe will win multiple individual awards on top of the Bolitnikoff, on top of the Doak Walker, on top of the Davy O'Brien, on top of the Heisman Trophy. So you're not going to see this whole narrative about Last Dance unfold, and right before you cross the finish line, Lane Kiffin goes, hey guys, yeah, best of luck on what you do in the playoff. I'm going to hightail it on out of here and take my money and run down to Florida. It's different. If you are Florida, you are actually targeting coaches that are probably not going to be in the dozen dance. And you kind of have to, because if you don't, you're risking losing players to the portal that you can't convince to come back, including a monster in DJ Lagway. You're losing the opportunity to land premier recruits who don't know what the future looks like down in Gainesville. And you're also probably going to build a roster that next year with Lane Kiffin will still be in the same location. Oh, and that buyout is going to cost you a lot of money, which is okay if you're a Florida fan because you want Billy Napier gone. But you're also going to have to pay a lot of money to probably watch a 5-7 season at best when Lane Kiffin comes to town. So that's the logic part. Do you understand that it's not going to work out? The dates don't add up where Lane Kiffin is going to be able to do his job coaching for a college football playoff and still be able to build a team that has expectations of going to the postseason next year down in the swamp. It's not going to work that way. And then emotion comes into it. You have an opportunity to be the face of Mississippi sports from here on out. On top of that, you also have an opportunity to set records down in Oxford, records that have been waiting to be broken, records that have an opportunity to be forever remembered on the Grove. And it's a great job. The one thing that Lane Kiffin has at his disposal that a lot of coaches don't is the fact that every offseason he gets to up his contract. He and Keith Carter will sit down and say, the Auburn job's available. Here's what you have to pay me to go ahead and stick around. And Keith Carter realizes we want to be a football program. We want the narrative to change. Just because if you haven't done something doesn't mean it can't be done. That's the one thing that people never seem to understand. Well, Ole Miss has never been a playoff contender. Okay, well, who says that they can't moving forward? Well, Ole Miss can't be a national championship team. Why is that the narrative? Because of it hasn't happened? Funny how on Saturdays narratives are supposed to be broken, and oftentimes they are. Well, Ole Miss can't be a consistent team that will find their way into the top tier rankings. Why is that? Because so far, Lane Kiffin every offseason has not only been one of the top tier recruiters when it comes to the transfer portal, but you've seen the recruiting rankings get better because if there is a program that fits the identity. And sometimes home fits. I'm not saying that Lane Kiffin wouldn't hightail it on out of there to go to Florida or head on back to California, but the right job has to be available, and timing is everything. I can tell you that there was an opportunity for me a few months ago to leave this job and go elsewhere, and it was a place that I really want to work. But unfortunately, the timing didn't. My wife is doing really good at her job. I don't want to pull her away from her family. We're saving up to buy a house here in Houston. I like my life, and eventually I could see a scenario where SEC Unfiltered grows to where we have a studio, we have a life to where we're able to bring in top tier recruits for interviews. We get to be the next premier outlet whenever it talks to SEC. And I'm okay with seeing that pathway because the timing will work better. Timing is everything. I'm not saying that Lane couldn't convince his son to leave Oxford with him, who's supposed to be moving down to Mississippi next year, and go to the Sunshine State. I'm not saying that Lane Kiffin couldn't convince his daughter to transfer with him to Florida and take a course juice and everything would work out. I'm not saying any of those things. But the timing is working in favor of where he is in Oxford. And it would cost a lot of money for him to probably leave. It would make sure that he had a premier transfer class that was coming on in that he can't work with. So the only scenario where Lane Kiffin is going to be the next head coach at Florida is if somehow Ole Miss misses the college football playoff. And the way they've looked so far, you sure as hell doubt the fact that they're not going to be in the dozen dance. I don't care if they're 10-2 and there are other 10-2 teams. They are one of those premier programs. And the same thing goes for Eli Trinkritz at Missouri. There's a lot of people who believe that Eli is the next coach in waiting down in Gainesville. Well, if they don't go to the playoff, you have a case. If they do go to the playoff, sorry, it's over. That's the whole problem with the 12-team playoff at this point. When you look at the recruits that are currently probably seeing other programs, you don't know who's going to be the next head coach at a team that you're committed to. When you look at the transfer portal, Malik Murphy was a perfect example of this for Texas last year. Wanted to be a part of a program that had an opportunity to go to the national championship, but he also realized his opportunities to be a starting quarterback elsewhere were going to be slim to none whenever he decided to enter the portal. And so when those things occur, you have to make the tough call. The easy call for Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkwitz and any coach that is going to be in the postseason picture is stick around for one more year. Let's see what I can do with this program. And if things start to go south, well, then I get to reinvent and probably re-understand what is made available for me to where I get to hit the reset button on my career. That happens. But it's not going to happen for Florida this year because Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkwitz, Mizzou, Ole Miss, they're playoff teams. So logic says you're not going to sit and wait around to once again be a 4-8 at best maybe program because that's not the standard down in Gainesville. It isn't. It won't be. So can we please stop the narrative? If you are rooting for Lane Kiffin to be the head coach at Gainesville, in Gainesville for Florida, you're also rooting for chaos to occur down in Oxford. And do you know how many people will say the narrative changes on Lane Kiffin when he goes 8-4 after leading a team that last year wasn't even close to sniffing the jockstrap of this conversation's level? They're going to be kind of annoyed that that's the coach they hired. So you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You don't get a coach that goes 11-1, potentially wins the SEC, goes to the college football playoff, gets a bye, and then says, you know what? We're right at the finish line. Peace. That's not going to happen. It isn't. So if you're Florida, start looking for coaches that may not be busy in the month of December. Coaches that may have an opportunity to hit the reset button and, more importantly, build their own recruiting class. Work the transfer portal in your favor. I'm not saying you have to go get the next up-and-comer. I'm saying you got to get back to the standard of sheer confidence that has been able to work the swamp in their favor for years. The one that made Dan Mullen profitable, the one that made Urban Meyer profitable, the one that made Steve Spurrier the talk of the SEC. That's the type of guy that you need. And Lane fits the bill, but there's many coaches that fit the bill. Jed Fish at Washington does. Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State does. Alex Golish at USF does. I'll even go as far to say Jamie Chadwell. Potentially, you could even throw in maybe an up-and-comer like G.J. Kinney. If they all do, that's fine. But that's the way you have to go. You're not getting Lane Kiffin. So I'm not going to go down this narrative. I'm not going to be one of those clickbait people that whenever you click on a clip and see my pretty face, we're talking about Ole Miss losing their head coach. I'm not doing it. I refuse to do it. And so in the great words of Nick Saban, I'm not going to, so quit asking. Lane Kiffin is not going to be the next head coach of Florida because if he is, that means that Ole Miss decided to crap the bed. And I don't think that they're crapping the bed. In my opinion, as the non-conference season comes to a close, they're just warming up. They're a bowling ball that is about ready to hit a strike in the SEC. And if you do not play your A-plus version, congratulations. Not only are you walking away with an L, you're walking away with your tail tagged between your legs, wondering what the hell went wrong. That is the version of Ole Miss football that you're going to see in 2024. So Lane Kiffin, hate to break it to you, buddy. Hate to break it to all those Lane Kiffin troopers down in the orange and blue. He's not available. So quit asking. But let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think that Ole Miss is a better job than Florida? Do you think that Ole Miss is a job that can compete with Florida? Is Lane Kiffin going to be the next coach down in Gainesville? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. I'm done with this narrative. I'm done with this video. It's Cole Thompson. Peace.